What's up, guys? Miss Nostradamus here, and I'm back for the Leo Sun and Leo Rising Aquarius season tarot reading. So, the cards that I drew here was the Hanged Man, or the self-sabotaging, sort of self-defeating, the Completion with Aries, the Sun card, the Tower, failure, and defeat. I translate that for all Leo Sun and Risings, that 2018 thus far hasn't been very fair to you. And with the recent lunar eclipse that was in Leo throughout this Aquarius season, it is over exaggerated, which you're well accustomed to. Most of the time, you're the one dramatizing or exaggerating things. So in this case, you're actually feeling the intense energy of dramatization, over exaggerating that you usually exert. But that lunar eclipse is over exaggerating this sense of starting the new year on a wrong foot, or being the last one out of the race gates, more or less. Perhaps any events may potentially have sabotaged maybe the origin of the sabotage, maybe home or family of origin, or perhaps due to hasteful poor choices over the past few months from yourself. Both can also be correlated with that as well. Regardless of the source of your attempts at asserting independence and utilizing the cardinal years, being proactive, Leo is a fixed sign. So regardless if you're rising or sun, it is you're usually stuck in your ways and ritualistic, but you have to develop those habitual behaviors, and you have to get going. You're not as slow on the draw as Taurus per se, but all fixed signs are not as adaptable, versatile, or as instantaneous proactive as like cardinal signs, for example. So this feeling like you're starting off on the wrong foot, more or less, may have been kind of building up from the last few months of the mutable years, so into November, into December. So asserting your independence and utilizing these cardinal years seems thwarted, leaving you sulking, feeling down, potentially depressed, or even feeling defeated or as a failure. You need to keep this in mind, that everybody has their, challenging times in their life. Specifically when it's Aquarius season, that is a trauma signature, and it does oppose your key house and your sign in general. So that causes dynamic tension, and on top of it being a trauma signature. So starting off with this year with a lunar eclipse in your sign, as well as being during Aquarius season, during this huge like over exaggerated violent shift of direction, instead of it being mutable and all over the place. It's like a forceful push in one direction. It can seem really overwhelming at times, or even just take you by surprise. So it's important, because you have been continually trying, and there's no emphasis that there is no lack of trying or genuine effort on your part. So it's important to reflect and maybe go for a plan B. So I put the reflection cards for the karma cards up, and I pulled Mars and Libra in the first house. So on a spiritual level, the drive for cooperation to perfect who you are. So understanding what you can contribute to things. Maybe perhaps you just don't know what's quote unquote best priorities for you, or the best path for yourself, and you may need to do some deep reflection with that as well. And on a mental or psychological level, the confronting of decisions about your desires. So being aware of your motives and your priorities is very, very crucial on a spiritual and mental level as well. And with the physiological or the mundane, action resulting from the fairness shown by your actions. So despite the fact that things aren't being that fair and kind to you, and it may be traumatizing or very disheartening, it's important to make sure too, when Leos are usually typically in distress, like any kind of, like, if we were going to think of the archetype of a lion, usually if a lion's like spooked, startled, or in distress, they usually don't have a lot of sympathy per se for any kind of innocent bystanders, more or less, and they tend to get really ruthless, not because they're actually intentionally trying to cause harm, but because they're naturally prideful, defensive, and don't like to show any kind of weakness or anything like that, and vulnerability. So you naturally, instead of venting or expressing your discontent or your sad, defeated, kind of depressing, sulking feelings, you lash out with aggression as opposed to, actually venting and weeping or that sort of thing. And so it's important to be aware of that. I'm not pressuring any Leo Sun or Leo risings to pour their heart out and be the vulnerable person with the heart on their sleeve, but just be aware that maybe you need to distance yourself and be conscious of when you start to feel overwhelmed and consumed by this, that you're not projecting and lashing out on innocent people in your immediate area, like loved ones or people that you, are passing and relating with on a regular basis. So that's the Aquarius season from the end of January into March for Leo Sun and Leo Rising.